Welcome, everyone. I'm Justin Paperny with Prison Professors, and we're going to continue our training and coverage of the Elizabeth Holmes trial taking place in Northern California. The value of this for a defendant, whether or not you have specific interest in this case, and clients of ours have said, I do, and others have said, I don't. Regardless, you're in a position to learn about the process of preparing for sentencing, going through a trial, understanding the stakeholders. In this case, these stakeholders include the jury. Who are they? What's their background? What will their perspective be of someone who was arguably a billionaire at a very young age? Will they buy into the perception or the belief of the government's version of events? So there's so much to learn about this process and trial. And it's also fascinating because so few people actually go to trial in this country. As we've tried to articulate through our prior blogs and videos, the majority of people take plea agreements for a variety of reasons. In some cases, obviously, they're guilty. In some cases, they feel the odds of prevailing are just so low, even though they really want to maintain their innocence. So that Elizabeth Holmes is going to trial is interesting, and we want to learn from that. For those of you on YouTube watching, thank you. As I have done in previous blogs or videos, I'm going to refer to a blog our team produced at prisonprofessors.com. I encourage you to visit prisonprofessors.com to go through our myriad free resources, from books to blogs to videos, to help you better prepare for this experience. To those of you who are choosing to listen by way of our podcast, thank you. And I also encourage you to go to Prison Professors to learn more. With that said, I'm going to transition into this blog that we call the Holmes trial, Judge and Jury, part 3. The judge in this case, it is without saying that judges are important. There are more liberal and conservative judges. In my case, I had Judge Stephen Wilson. Anyone would argue a very conservative, tough sentencing judge who ran the fraud division for many, many years in Los Angeles. I remember when I heard that I had Judge Wilson, my lawyer said, damn, I wish we drew anyone else but him. Who knows? I still got a downward departure, and I was very pleased with the sentence. So don't get scared if you hear, oh, we've got the best or the worst judge, or, sometimes lawyers will say, if we had this judge, it would have been a different outcome. You can't prove that. You've got to mitigate and do all you can to prepare, whether you have a favorable judge or a judge that is tough, that is known to sentence defendants really harshly. In this case, this judge in the Holmes trial is Judge Edward Davila. He joined the court in 2011 and appointed by President Obama. As many of you know, any federal judge is appointed to a lifetime appointment by a president. I believe it has to be approved in the Senate. He began his career, this judge did, as a deputy public defender in Santa Clara in 1981. After 7 years, he left the public sector and went into private practice. In 2001, the former Governor Gray Davis, before he was recalled, appointed Judge Davila to the Superior Court of Santa Clara. From there, he joined the federal court. If I were asked my opinion of this judge without knowing a ton about this judge, I would say I think it's a good thing for any defendant that he began his career as a public defender. He understands how a defendant would feel. He may have seen some of the injustices or overreach by prosecutions, may have an understanding of prosecutorial misconduct and how that could be identified. And so I think it's a very good thing for a defendant that you had someone that worked on the good side, that worked on the public defender side, where some judges, some were not in defense, and they were just prosecutors, career prosecutors, before they became a federal judge. So I think it's a good thing on the surface. The jury selection process in federal court is important. By the way, if you're ever wondering the best part of my being a convicted felon, I can tell you, I'll never have to serve on a jury. There are some benefits to being a convicted felon. In this case, or any case, every criminal defendant is entitled to a fair and impartial jury. I'd love to say it's impartial, just like I'd love to say that McDonald's doesn't want you to buy cheeseburgers or Winchell's doesn't want you to buy donuts. They do, regardless of what they say, because it is so hard to be viewed impartially when it's your name versus the United States of America. I think you've got to embrace, you've got to understand that, and it would be delusional to think that a jury, despite what they may say, I've just been doing this a very long time, and too few people who I believe to be innocent are acquitted at trial. I understand constitutionally you're entitled to an impartial jury, though in reality, with Google, with these Department of Justice press releases, with it's your name versus the United States of America, I think it's somewhat difficult. Lawyers and judges select juries by a process known as voir dire. Good Lord, I've said that incorrectly, which in Latin means to speak the truth. The judge and attorneys for both sides ask potential jurors questions to determine if they are competent and suitable to serve and ensure there is no bias in this case. To give you an example, many years ago, some knucklehead on YouTube called to say, I got off jury duty today. I said, what did you say? He said, when they asked me a question, I told them that I think everyone who ever comes in front of a jury is innocent and I can never be viewed impartially. Of course, they removed him from the jury in about 12 seconds. So if you want to say something like that, you can't be impartial. You're going to say things that are are going to get you removed. That's what that person did. That's something that you can do. To the jury selection, the federal court juror selection process ensures that jurors represent a cross-section of the community without regard to race, gender, origin, age, or political affiliation. District courts randomly select citizens' names from lists of registered voters and people with driver's licenses who live in that district. They complete a questionnaire. I know many of you have gotten that questionnaire in the mail and think, damn, I got to go do jury duty. Though I can tell you, a number of friends of mine have been really enjoyed being on a jury. They've learned a great deal about the process. They see it differently. I would encourage you, if you have an opportunity, and you're not a convicted felon like me, if you have an opportunity to participate in a jury and you're objective and impartial and can view both sides openly without judging the person because he or she was indicted, I'd really encourage you to do it. Everyone I know that's been on a jury has enjoyed it, but more importantly, learned from it and felt as if they played a role in justice and doing the right thing. They complete a questionnaire and then they're randomly summoned to appear. On that form, by the way, for any of you with a felony conviction, there would be a spot to check if you're a convicted felon. Once you check in and send it back, you're not going to hear from them for a while. Being summoned to appear for jury does not guarantee that you will actually serve. When needed for a trial, a group of pre-qualified jurors go to the courtroom where the trial will occur. The judge and the attorneys then ask the jurors questions to determine their suitability. The purpose is to exclude people who may not be able to decide the case fairly from the jury. Again, to get the whole blog here, I encourage you to go to prisonprofessors.com. I'll put a link to it in the YouTube description. I also will in the podcast description for those of you listening. Criminal and civil juries. When an individual accused of committing a crime goes on trial, 12 people and alternates find that the majority of the time they find the defendant unanimously guilty. And how quickly? About 6 weeks ago, going back to early August, got a call from a defendant who told me the jury convicted him in about 39 minutes. Wow, that's quick. When people seek remedies in court for private wrongs, at least 6 people make up a civil jury. So this is civil here, not criminal. The jury must come to a unanimous decision unless otherwise specified. The standard of proof is a preponderance of the evidence, or more true than not. Settlement negotiations reduce the need for juries in civil cases. Let's continue on with this blog before we get more into the Elizabeth Holmes case. Working together, judge and jury. The justice system relies on the ability of judges and juries to work together. The judge determines the appropriate law that applies to the case, and the jury finds the facts in the case based on the evidence presented to them in court. At the end of the trial, the judge instructs the jury on the applicable law. While the jury must obey the judge's instructions, the jury alone is responsible for determining the facts of the case. I'll note, while the majority of people, including our clients, are convicted at trial, there have been a number of our clients and others who have been successful on appeal. So keep that in mind. If unfortunately you go to trial and you lose, you do have the opportunity to appeal. And a number of our clients have been successful. You need the right appellate lawyer. It's expensive. It's a process. But there is still hope if you're unfortunately convicted. To the Holmes jury panel, on the 31st of August, 2021, Judge Davila set in motion the process to appoint 12 jurors and 5 alternates to this trial. 3 days later, 12 jurors were selected, 5 women, 7 men, 5 alternates, 2 men, 3 women. This jury panel will spend the next 4 months considering wire fraud and conspiracy charges against Holmes. In the video posted yesterday talking about the 3 defenses, the jury, of course, is going to hear the 3 primary defenses: that making misrepresentations is prevalent in Silicon Valley, and another defense Holmes is making is that PTSD on behalf of her former lover and employer that she hired in 2009. He was abusive, both verbally and mentally, and the PTSD she suffered apparently compelled her to make bad decisions and raise in excess of hundreds of millions of dollars without knowing that it was wrong because of this PTSD defense. We'll see how it unfolds, but that's one of the 3 defenses covered in the video yesterday, and you're going to hear a lot more about that through our work at Prison Professors, but also in the media that's covering this case. The court selected the jury panel out of close to 200 residents from the San Francisco area. Again, as aforementioned, they were summoned. Prosecutors, defense counsel, and Judge Davila questioned the jury pool about their media exposure, biases, and feelings about domestic abuse. The reason they asked about domestic abuse is because, as I just mentioned, one of Holmes' three primary defenses is going to be that her co-defendant, Balwani, controlled and physically and sexually abused her during the commission of the crimes. Jurors had to answer questions about whether or not they had experience with any form of abuse in their own lives. Many of them revealed they had. Others revealed that someone close to them had experienced abuse and violence. Information like this, of course, is vital in putting the jury together. The extensive media coverage in this case would make it challenging to find a fair and impartial jury because there's so many perspectives and opinions out there from media who's looking to get headlines from left and right who are for or against the defendant. So you have to really not have access to the internet or literally have no interest in this case. Even if you have no interest in the case, when you go to Yahoo, CNN, Fox, and other places, this case is put right in front of you. So it's hard not to have come across it because it's so big. But to the extent that the judge and the government and the defense can find people who have not been persuaded, both good or bad, they're going to do that. But still, it's impossible to know because you're relying upon statements from people who may have a different objective who are on this jury. During the process, judge dismissed many jurors from serving. For example, on one day, the judge dismissed 14 jurors out of a jury pool of 40 based on media exposure to the case. After getting discharged, one woman told reporters, "I would have judged her fairly as a person and not as the evil billionaire portrayed in some of the media coverage." Probably want someone like that on the jury if you're going to trial. Another prospective juror stated, "The documentary gave a negative picture about the defendant. I have some bias. I can try to put aside bias and only look at the facts." Hard to not admire this person's honesty. That honesty got him or her thrown off the jury. For the parties in the court, predicting who can be fair and impartial despite media exposure is not easy. Some jurors attempt to hide their biases because they want to serve on a jury in a high-profile case. Others lie because they do not wish to serve. Again, they're going to do the best they can. Hardly a day. You know, when you see some of these really high-profile cases, sometimes when the statement comes out, you turn on TV, on Fox News or CNN, who do you see? Someone in the jury, someone talking about it. Maybe they write a book or they do interviews, so there could be some notoriety that accompanies it. And some people, we've had so many people reach out to us over the years. I had one person tell me years ago they were on a high profile, they were in the jury in a white collar crime case. And the person said, "At first I was so bothered that I was on this jury. Then I found it so engaging, so fun. I learned so much. It was really like exciting to go to the courthouse every day. I felt really relevant and important. I really wanted to be the foreperson of the jury." And basically he said, "My life is kind of boring and dull, and this shook it up a little bit. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to do a YouTube video? Do you want to interview me, what it was like to be in a jury? I'm happy to talk about it." And I said, "Thank you for calling in. I don't have interest in interviewing you at this time." The point is some people may want the recognition or just getting out of the boringness. Boringness, a word? Boring, banality, boring. I think you get what I'm saying. Some people find it very exciting. To the extent the government and everyone can find people who are objective, they're going to, but it's not a perfect science. After finally swearing in 17 jurors, Judge Davila told the jurors not to conduct research and avoid media coverage of the case. The jury will be back for opening statements September 8th. Let's conclude this podcast and YouTube video. Jury selection is now complete, and the 12-member jury panel plus 5 alternatives has been sworn in. Statements began October 8th. And from what we have read and articulated in this blog of Prison Professors, it's a pretty diverse group of age, gender, and race. Again, I think Elizabeth Holmes, it's a good break for her to have this judge preside, primarily because of his experience as a federal public defender, understanding how the odds are against any defendant. And I think he'll be fair because of that. And if unfortunately she faces a sentencing hearing, perhaps because of his experience as a federal public defender, he may show more mercy or leniency. But time will tell. I'm not a psychic. If I were, I certainly wouldn't be on YouTube filming videos. I'd probably be somewhere else. That said, I've really enjoyed filming this video for you. You're awesome. Subscribe and continue to come back as I play Justin Paperny, court reporter for Prison Professors, covering the very important Elizabeth Holmes trial. I've enjoyed our conversation. Talk to you soon. Thank you for listening and watching. Subscribe. Goodbye.